Welcome to ISO 27001 Avoid Key Mistakes for Certification Success. In the next few minutes, we'll walk through the most common pitfalls that derail ISO 27001 certification projects. From planning failures and scope definition errors through documentation traps, risk assessment mistakes, and audit day blunders. These are the mistakes that experienced consultants see again and again, and they are entirely avoidable. Whether you're starting your first implementation or preparing for a certification audit, this overview will save you time and frustration. Let's get started. Let's start with the planning and scope definition mistakes that set certification projects up for failure before implementation even begins. Getting the scope right is the single most impactful decision in your certification project. Both extremes cause problems. A scope that is too broad includes everything, every department, every system, every process. This seems thorough but creates an unmanageable implementation. Documentation requirements multiply. Every department needs involvement. Risk assessments cover hundreds of assets. The budget and timeline spiral beyond what management approved, and the team burns out. Auditors do not give extra credit for a broader scope. A scope that is too narrow excludes critical dependencies. If your scoped services run on infrastructure that is out of scope, auditors will flag uncontrolled interfaces. If your certification covers only one product, while customers use three, the certificate loses commercial value. And you will constantly discover missing dependencies, requiring scope changes that delay certification. Beyond scope, these planning mistakes are the most common reasons that certification projects fail or stall. Clause 5 requires top management commitment, but many organizations treat this as a signature on a policy document. Real commitment means allocating budget, giving the ISMS manager authority to enforce policies across departments, attending management reviews personally, and visibly supporting the program. Without this, departments resist changes, and the ISMS becomes a paper exercise that auditors see through immediately. Adding ISMS implementation to someone's existing full-time job without reducing other responsibilities is a guaranteed way to miss deadlines. Implementation requires focused effort for risk assessments, policy writing, control implementation, and evidence collection. Organizations that treat it as a side project typically take 2 to 3 times longer to reach certification, if they reach it at all. Promising the board that certification will happen in 3 months when the organization has significant gaps leads to cutting corners, incomplete implementation, and failed audits. A realistic timeline for a medium complexity organization is 9 to 12 months. Rushing creates technical debt that surfaces during surveillance audits and requires expensive rework. Implementing controls that contradict established working practices without change management creates resistance and workarounds. If your organization has always shared credentials and you mandate individual accounts without explaining why, people will find ways around it. Security culture change requires communication, training, and gradual adoption, not just a new policy document. Now let's cover the implementation and audit preparation mistakes that cause nonconformities and failed certifications. These implementation mistakes are the ones auditors flag most frequently. The most common implementation mistake is a copy-paste risk assessment that lists generic risks without analyzing your specific context. Auditors immediately recognize a risk register full of textbook risks that do not reflect the organization's actual technology stack, threat landscape, or business context. Start from your asset inventory, identify real threats and vulnerabilities, and assess impact based on your business operations. Writing policies that describe an ideal state rather than reality creates a dangerous gap. When auditors interview staff and observe processes, the disconnect between documented policies and actual practice generates nonconformities. Write policies that describe what you actually do today. Then improve your practices. Then update the policies. Never the reverse. Controls that exist but leave no evidence cannot be verified. If your policy requires monthly access reviews, but there is no record of reviews being conducted, auditors will issue a nonconformity. Build evidence collection into your normal workflow from the start. Automated logs, approval records, meeting minutes, and signed-off checklists. The statement of applicability is one of the most scrutinized documents in a certification audit. Weak justifications like not applicable or not relevant for excluded controls will be challenged. Every exclusion must have a specific, risk-based rationale. If you exclude physical controls because you have no data center, document that clearly. Auditors want to see that you made informed decisions. Even well-prepared organizations make mistakes during the certification audit itself. Here are the most damaging ones. The number one audit day mistake is over-talking. When an auditor asks a specific question, answer that question and stop. Volunteers who elaborate, share anecdotes, or explain edge cases open new lines of investigation that the auditor was not planning to pursue. Brief, accurate, evidence-backed answers are always better than long explanations. Having controls in place, but being unable to locate evidence during the audit creates nonconformities even when the control is working. Organize your evidence repository before the audit. Create an evidence index mapped to annex controls. Run a mock evidence retrieval exercise. The ability to produce evidence quickly demonstrates maturity. When auditors interview different staff members about the same process and receive contradictory descriptions, it signals that the process is not well defined or communicated. Before the audit, ensure that all staff who may be interviewed understand the documented processes and can describe them consistently. This does not mean scripted answers. It means genuine understanding. Getting defensive when auditors raise findings is counterproductive. Auditors expect to find observations and minor nonconformities. It is a normal part of the process. Responding defensively, arguing with findings, or making excuses damages the relationship and may escalate minor observations to formal nonconformities. Accept findings professionally and focus on corrective actions. Let's close with the most important lessons for avoiding certification mistakes. First, scope definition determines the success or failure of your entire certification project. A scope that is too broad creates unmanageable complexity. A scope that is too narrow excludes critical dependencies. Invest serious time in defining a scope that is commercially meaningful, technically coherent, and achievable within your resources. Second, management commitment is not a checkbox. It means allocated budget, delegated authority to enforce security requirements across departments, personal attendance at management reviews, and visible support when security conflicts with operational convenience. Without genuine commitment, your ISMS will be a paper exercise. Third, always document reality first. Policies that describe how things should work rather than how they actually work create a gap that auditors will find. Start with honest documentation of current practices, then use the ISMS improvement cycle to close gaps systematically. And fourth, evidence collection must be built into your processes from the beginning, not scrambled together before an audit. Automated logging, structured approval workflows, and consistent record-keeping demonstrate that your controls operate continuously, not just when auditors are watching. That wraps up our overview of common ISO 27001 certification mistakes. In the full Udemy course, you'll get a comprehensive breakdown of every major mistake with real-world examples, detailed checklists for each implementation phase, audit preparation guides and mock audit scenarios, and templates that help you avoid documentation pitfalls. Click the link below or scan the QR code to enroll and achieve certification success on your first attempt. Thank you for watching. If you found this overview helpful, subscribe to the channel for more content, and check the description for the link to the full course. See you in the next video.